Hello, everyone, and welcome to SCORE Fairfield County's live webinar on Hub Zones and Opportunity Zones, what they can do for your business. I'm Bob Hogan, the webinar coordinator today and a business mentor here at SCORE Fairfield County. I'll be your host, and our presenters are Tanisha Baptiste, Paige Rassi, and Meg Yadashevsky. More on Tanisha, Paige, and Meg in just a minute. Today's webinar is sponsored by the Southern Connecticut Black Chamber of Commerce, so I'd like to invite Diana Washington to provide some brief introductory remarks. Diana?
Good morning. On behalf of the Southern Connecticut Black Chamber, I'd like to welcome and thank you for joining us this morning. The Chamber is a business network servicing small, minority, and women-owned businesses in the greater Bridgeport communities. We provide educational and informational workshops, free access to bids, MBE certification, and networking events. We are also part of the SBA's Navigator program, which is designed to target underrepresented communities and businesses. The Chamber makes sure our businesses are aware of and connected to SBA resources and assistance, which includes access to capital, contracting and procurement, marketing, operation, business development, and exporting. If you have any questions or want more information about the Chamber or the OIC Business Hub, our contact information is in the chat section. Again, thank you for joining us.
Great. Thanks, Diana. I'd now like to just provide some brief information on SCORE. And Tanisha, if I could just ask you to advance the slide. SCORE is a nonprofit national partner of the SBA with over 10,000 volunteers across the country. And locally here at SCORE Fairfield County, we have over 100 volunteers with a wide range of industry, process, and subject matter expertise. And we offer three primary value-added services to small business owners. First of all, we offer free one-on-one counseling that you can access either in person, via video, telephone, or email, whatever works best for you. And you can do that by using the yellow bit.ly link that you see on the screen, or you can go to our website and click on the Request a Mentor link. Secondly, we offer a wide range of educational workshops and webinars like the one today, roughly about 100 throughout the year. And lastly, we offer extensive resources on our website, including a network, access to a network of subject matter experts. Our next live webinar is tomorrow, June 27th at noon, and the topic is the superpower of creativity for marketing success with John Follis presenting. Look for more specifics on fairfieldcounty.score.org. If you're on our website, we also have a large number of recorded webinars that cover a wide range of business topics, and these can be viewed at any time by just clicking on demand webinars. Just some logistics about today's event. We have set aside time for questions and answers at the end of the presentation. And if you have a question, please use the Q&A button at any time during the presentation, and our presenters will answer them at the end of the prepared remarks. We will end our webinar sharply at 1 o'clock to respect your time. The session is being recorded, and a link to the recording will be available on our website within the next day or so. It's now my pleasure to introduce our three speakers today. First is Tanisha Baptiste. Tanisha is the Business Opportunity Specialist for the Connecticut District Office of the SBA. In this role, Tanisha performs all duties related to federal government contracting, including the SBA's set-aside programs. Our next speaker will be Paige Rassi. Paige has worked as a small business innovation manager and consultant for Connecticut Innovations and Connecticut Next in technology, commercialization, and industry relations for Yukon, and now serves as the Opportunity Zone Program Manager and Assistant to the Deputy Commissioner at the Department of Economic and Community Development. Prior to her state work, Paige worked in trade associations for the tech industry and for angel and venture capital investors, producing investor pitch events and entrepreneurship award programs. A native of Somers, Connecticut, she also teaches art and graphic design to teens and after-school enrichment programs and is a certified mindfulness and meditation coach. Our third speaker is Meg Yadashevsky. Meg is the Manager of Procurement Programs at the Department of Administrative Services and brings 25 years of experience to the small business program. Currently, she manages the Small/Minority Business Certification Program and the Construction Pre-Qualification Program. The small business programs serve as primary liaisons for Connecticut small businesses seeking procurement opportunities with the state of Connecticut and the private sector market. The mission of the small business program is to facilitate economic development for our state's small business and minority businesses by recruiting, certifying, and connecting them with that marketplace. I'll now turn it first over to Tanisha. Tanisha, it's all yours.
Thank you so much, Bob. Good morning, everyone. As Bob said, my name is Tanisha Baptiste. I am with the Small Business Administration's Connecticut District Office. And today I will be speaking specifically about the SBA's Hub Zone program. So a little background on Hub Zones first. Hub Zone stands for Historically Underutilized Business Zones. And I know a lot of people get them confused with Opportunity Zones. So I'm happy that we're having this webinar today to help to kind of separate the two and give you all a little understanding about each one of them are separate from each other. So the Hub Zone is a federal program by the U.S. Small Business Administration, established in 1997 and launched in 1999. The goal of this program is to fuel the growth of small businesses located in historically underutilized business zones. So federal agencies have goals. So federal government spending approaching $600 billion. Of that, 23% is supposed to be set aside for small businesses. And then we further drill that down, 3% of that 600 billion should be set aside for Hub Zone certified small businesses. And as a part of the Hub Zone program, you do get a price preference on certain awards if they are posted as full and open competition. Okay, so small businesses, they invest in and hire from qualified Hub Zones. And as we talk a little bit about the qualification criteria, you'll hear that 35% of the business's employees must also reside in a Hub Zone, not specifically the Hub Zone that the business is in, but in a Hub Zone. Undercapitalized communities benefit from job opportunities and investment by having that 35%. So what's unique about the Hub Zone program is that it's not based on any socioeconomic characteristics of the owner like many of our other set-aside programs are. This is entirely based on the location of the firm's principal office and their employees. So with this, you have their Hub Zone map. There's a link. I'll make sure that you all have access to these slides. I will share them with Bob afterwards. That way they can send it out to everyone who has registered. You'll be able to click on the map itself. You'll input your address, and then it'll pop up letting you know whether or not you're in a Hub Zone. So in this example, we just kind of put in New Haven, Connecticut. It says it's overall qualified as a Hub Zone. But what I want you to do, instead of just putting the city and state, put the exact address of your principal office. SBA defines the principal office as the place where the majority of your employees work from. Okay, so you're going to put in that address, and then it will pop up letting you know whether or not you're in a qualified Hub Zone. Okay, and if it is, then you may be eligible for set-aside government contracts. Notice the word may, because there's some more criteria that you have to meet, such as the 35% employees residing in a Hub Zone. Okay, so if you guys look, you guys have the access to the Q&A. So I have a little quiz for you all. Okay, so what is the #1 industry for Hub Zone firms? Is it A, manufacturing, B, waste management, C, construction, or D, professional services? And just take a couple of minutes and pop that in there and let me know. Nobody wants to guess. Here we go. Manufacturing, construction, professional services. And excuse my gaze, I have 2 screens, so I have the chat open on the left side. Okay, so ACD. Okay, so we kind of had a mix. C, professional services, C. A lot of people think construction. Several people said professional services, some said manufacturing. I think that this is a great example of a question, when people think government contracting, they think manufacturing, they think construction, they think that they have to have a hammer and nails. So if you look at your NAICS code, if the first two digits are 54, that is the most common industry for all of our programs, actually, not just hub zones. The biggest, most of the dollars go to professional services, to be honest. So if you have a 541912 or any of the other professional service NAICS codes, the government is definitely spending money in your industry. Okay. So this is our federal scorecard performance. So the goal is to get to 3% of our goal. The thing about hub zones is that agencies are having a hard time reaching it. You see that the numbers are going up and up and up. I think in 2021, we don't have the numbers yet for 2022, but in 2021, and that's by fiscal year, the federal government's fiscal year, which is October 1st through September 30th, we were at about 2.5%. We need to be at 3%. So this is a great opportunity for you all to get this certification, because one of the things that contracting officers are going to be looking for is our hub zones that are capable of performing on their contracting opportunities so that they can meet these goals. Okay. So here are some results, right? Why do you want to get this certification, right? So some results that we have firms in every state performing on federal contracts, right? More than 2,000 active hub zone firms, and they all range anywhere from $10,000 to $10 million for awards, okay? I know most people, they want to get on that $10 million side of it, but getting that experience, you have to start somewhere. So even if it's on that $10,000 side, you definitely want to leverage those opportunities. So some results, and I'm going to breeze through a lot of this really quickly because I do want to be respectful of the other panelists' time. So SAM Engineering and Surveying, when they started out, before they got their hub zone certification, they were at $400,000 for their annual receipts. Through the hub zone program, they were able to increase their revenue to $4 million. Train Partners, they started with 7 employees. They got their hub zone certification and increased that to 115. Pearl River Joint Ventures, they started at a $32,000 revenue, and they were able to increase that to $5 million. Okay. So we're not going to drill really down into each of these. Let's talk about some of these eligibilities and requirements, right? So you want to get the certification. Do I qualify? So first thing we want to talk about is ownership, okay? 51% owned by US citizens, okay? Principal office must be located in a hub zone. We talked about the 35%. 35% of your employees must reside in a hub zone. Again, it doesn't have to be the exact hub zone that the business is in, but they must reside in a hub zone. 40 hours per month. That's the number that we're looking for employees. If you have an employee and if they are working 40 hours per month on your books, they count. If it's less than 40 hours per month, don't worry about it, but anything 40 hours and more, they can be included in this 35%. Size, you must be small based on SBA size standards. The size standard table is on our website. You probably don't even need to look at it. I can tell you, you're probably small. 98 to 99% of businesses are small. Okay. Hub zone location, you're going to want to look at the map. The map is updating in a couple of days, actually, July 1st. So make sure that you're looking at the new map that's going to be effective July 1st. So some of the responsibilities of the SBA, we implement and regulate the program. So we determine which businesses are eligible. We maintain a listing of qualified hub zone business concerns on our what's called the dynamic small business search. So if a contracting officer wants to verify your hub zone status, they'll be able to find that on the dynamic small business search. We determine and adjudicate eligibility. We have streamlined the certification process. We maintain that certification listing. Important thing to note, we don't design the hub zone map at the SBA. That is done by the US Census. Okay, we do have a program where a governor can petition to have a hub zone added. It still needs to meet certain criteria based on unemployment rates, the the businesses in the area and all of that. Connecticut, we did get one governor designated hub zone last year in Torrington. And this year we're going to be looking to work with Paige's folks over at DECD to see about getting another petition in for 2023 to add another hub zone into the state. I cannot tell the governor which area to pick. The governor and his team, they decide which area meets the eligibility criteria, and then they submit the petition to me. I send it down to our headquarters, and then they review it for approval. Okay. So the hub zone certification application process, once you've determined that you are eligible, your business is in a hub zone, you've looked at your payroll records, you have the 35% employee qualification all squared away, make sure you're registered in sam.gov, okay? Not just for federal awards. When Meg comes on to talk to you about the state certification, she's gonna let you know that they have, you have to be registered in SAM before you start your application for the state set-asides as well. You're going to gather your required documents. You're going to need payroll, proof of residency for your employees. You're going to need your proof of ownership that you own that business, proof of principal location. So if you own the building, obviously you're going to have to provide the deed information and all that. If you're leasing, provide the leasing agreement. And then you'll apply through sba.gov/hubzone. So we do have other socioeconomic programs such as the 8A business development program. We have the hub zone that we've already discussed. We have service disabled veteran-owned small business programs, woman-owned small business certifications, veteran small business certification through VetCert. There's no order precedence among these programs, and you can have more than one certification. Whatever ones you qualify for, you can go ahead and apply for them. Okay, there's when the contracting officer makes a determination on which socioeconomic program to use, they're going to look at their market research. Do we have enough businesses qualified for me to set this aside? So if they want to set something aside for the hub zone program, for example, they're going to do some market research on the businesses in the area. Are there enough businesses in the area that have the hub zone certification for them to set it aside for hub zones? Let's get our certifications, people. The more people that we have certified, when they do their market research, they're going to say, oh, we have plenty to choose from. We're going to go ahead and set it aside. And then the agency's progress in fulfilling small business goals. So again, they're always short in their hub zone numbers. So if they notice that there is a need for them to set something aside as a hub zone award, then they're going to go ahead and set it aside that way. Okay. So there are some contract vehicles, right? For hub zones, you can get a sole source award. That means it doesn't even go out for competition. The contracting officer identifies a specific business that they want to perform on this contract, and they can issue what's called a sole source award, provided the business is current, their hub zone status is valid, so on and so forth. They can do 100% hub zone set aside awards, as well as partial set aside. So they can say 50% if this is going to go out as a large contract and multiple vendors are going to work on it. They can do a partial set aside, or they can do 100% set aside. When we talk about that price evaluation preference, if a contract is posted as full and open competition, that means it hasn't been set aside. Anyone can bid on it. Big business, small business, businesses with socioeconomic certifications, anyone can bid on this contract. A big company bids on it, and then a small business that has their hub zone certification bid on it. That larger company is going to come in at a price that is lower than the small business. So what has to happen is the contracting officer then must give the hub zone a 10% price evaluation preference. So if you then come in lower than that larger business, they have to award the business to the hub zone. Okay. Give you guys a minute to let that sink in a little bit. Has to be posted as full and open competition. Okay. I'm a big business. I come in and I say, I'm going to do this contract for X amount of dollars. You as a small business, you come in and you're like, I can only do this amount of dollars. I'm a small business. My suppliers are charging me a bit more. The contracting officer has to look at it, do the math, give you a 10% price evaluation preference. If that then brings you either equal to or less than that big business, they have to award the contract to the hub zone. Okay. You have reserves for hub zone small business concerns under multiple award contracts. Those are usually through the General Services Administrations. Multiple award schedules. You've got orders set aside for hub zone small business set asides against another multiple award contract where that contract was awarded in full and open competition. So those are all of the hub zone contract vehicles. Okay. You're going to have questions. You're going to go home after this webinar and you're going to say, I don't know what any of that meant, or I forgot something. I'm going to make sure you have my contact information, as well as access to free resources for you to reach out to. Okay. Joint venture, that means that you are working with another business. You're forming a third business as a joint venture specifically to work on a specific contract. Okay. So a hub zone small business concern joint venture with one or more other small business concerns, or its SBA approved mentor for the purpose of submitting an offer for a hub zone contract. Happens often. I cannot tell you who to mentor with, but if you find another business that you're interested in creating a mentor protege relationship with, and if that ends up branching out into a joint venture, wonderful. Okay, another quiz. If a firm becomes ineligible while performing on a contract, the contracting officer must terminate the contract. True or false? The map changes all of a sudden, business is booming in your area, you're no longer in a hub zone. Your employees hit the lotto and they decided to buy a mansion in Farmington, Connecticut. Do they have to terminate the contract at that point? False. You got one answer for false. All right, we're going to move it along here. So the correct answer is false. So firms may fall in and out of compliance as long as they continue to certify annually on its anniversary and it's in compliance. If you are certified at time of offer, contracting officer offered the contract to you, you are good for the life of the contract. Even if at the time of award, you lost the 35%. You were qualified at the time of offer, okay? You may continue to work on that contract. Okay, requirements to bid. You have to be certified as a hub zone, and it's got to be listed on the dynamic small business search. You must be small under the NAICS code assigned to the procurement. You must attempt to maintain having at least 35% of the employees residing in a hub zone during the performance of a hub zone contract. So if you're working on a contract, all of a sudden your employee moved, or someone got let go or decided to move on to another opportunity, as long as you attempt to maintain, meaning I put out applications and I'm looking to hire, you have to stay within 20% while you're working on that contract, but as long as you attempt to maintain, you're still eligible. And you'll comply with the applicable limitations on subcontracting during the performance of the contract. That's located in the CFR. If you have insomnia, go to ECFR or go to acquisition.gov. I promise you'll fall asleep quickly. So for some hub zone help, for support with government contracting and growing your business, we have some resource partners available. SCORE, you're already aware of SCORE because you're here today. We've also got the Small Business Development Centers, the Women's Business Centers, the VBOX as well. So for support, you're going to visit the HubZone website, again, sba.gov/HubZone. You're going to view the location eligibility on the HubZone map. You can also email the help desk, hubzone@sba.gov. And there are weekly conference calls every Tuesday and Thursday at 2 p.m. open to the public. Feel free to call in at any time. The access code is here on this slide as well. Again, I'll make sure you all have access to these slides. Apex Accelerators, free resource partner for all things procurement. Federal, state, local, all of it, right? One-on-one counseling, they help with registrations, they help with socioeconomic certifications, bid match programs, so on and so forth. It's an exhaustive list. They are free, 100% free. We also have our Women's Business Development Council out of Central Connecticut, Eastern Connecticut, and Western Connecticut. Small Business Development Centers. We also have the Entrepreneurial Center and Women's Business Center at the University of Hartford. SCORE, you're already aware of. And if you are a veteran or the spouse of a veteran, we also have our Veteran Business Outreach Centers. I'm also for SBA Connecticut's Veteran Business Development Officer, so you can reach out to me as well if you're a veteran. And lastly, you have me. This is my contact information. I will also make sure to drop it in the chat. So email me with any questions that you may have. And SBA is moving along in the world, in the way of the world. We are social. We are on Twitter. You can follow us, SBA_Connecticut. We're also on LinkedIn, SBA Connecticut District Office. So follow us on both of those. I'll drop the hot links in the chat as well. And with that, that concludes my portion of the presentation. I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing. I know it was a lot of information. So again, I am going to make sure that I put my information in the chat. And then I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Meg Yanuszewski. No, I'm not. I'm sorry. Paige Rashid. I'm sorry. My apologies. And I'll put the information in the chat.
Thanks so much, Tanisha, and thanks to Bob, our moderator. I'm such a big fan of SCORE and all the support they give every day to the businesses, business owners. And if you are a business owner and you haven't checked out the services through SCORE and the other entrepreneurial support services through SBDC, it's really an incredible resource through the SBA. So I am here to speak a little bit about opportunity zones. I do have a bit of a slideshow, but I am looking forward to having some conversation. I'm trying hard just to do this as a slideshow. So again, my name is Paige Rashid. I'm with the Department of Economic and Community Development. We have an Office of Opportunity Zones. The Opportunity Zone tax benefit was designed to drive investment into economically distressed neighborhoods and zones. Connecticut has 27 communities that contain opportunity zones. Each of the 72 opportunity zones are a census tract within the municipality. And Connecticut has doubled down on investing in opportunity zones. One of the great things we've done is added additional incentives, state incentives on top of the federal, and I'll tell you a little bit about that. DECD works every day driving investment into places that need it. We support businesses and work to attract new businesses with our help from Advanced CT that does a lot of outreach to out-of-state businesses. In state, we have a number of partners that work with all types of businesses, including SBDC, Connecticut CT Next helps our entrepreneurial businesses, and DECD has a number of business counselors on staff in our business development team. If you've never worked with them, it can be a great way to reach out, get an understanding of what DECD has to offer, maybe talk in depth about your business and see what programs or perhaps funding opportunities might be available. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention that DECD does some direct funding for business lending. And you can always reach out and talk to us about any of that. Back to opportunity zones specifically. Opportunity zones, again, was created in the Federal Tax Cuts and Job Act in 2017. And so it's been around for a while. If you do decide to do investing into an opportunity zone, I can't stress enough, talk to your lawyers and accountants, because again, this is primarily a tax incentive through the IRS. And as such, it has all kinds of rules. The first thing to know is you have to start with capital gains. That's money from an investment that you've made. The investment grew, and when you take the money out, you've made money, and that's a capital gain. Could be from stocks, could be from a real estate property or other investments, could be from a business investment. But again, the most important thing to know is this starts with capital gains that you then take, and within certain time parameters, 180 days, you invest it into a qualified opportunity zone investment fund. That fund is designed, created as a qualified opportunity zone investment fund. And that fund then has up to 180 days to invest the majority of the money into an opportunity zone business or real estate. Now, those investments, again, I mentioned real estate or businesses. When you're talking about the investment into businesses, that's really akin to an equity investment, perhaps. And there's an old saying that just because a business is in a opportunity zone doesn't make it a great investment. It's got to be a good investment to begin with. The benefits of using opportunity zone funds in your investment, there's 3 benefits. The first is you defer the payment of the capital gains tax on that first investment. The second is you could decrease the amount of capital gains in that first investment that you have to pay. But that benefit has mostly sunset because, again, this tax benefit has been around since 2017, and the investment would have had to have been made by 2021. But that was a big incentive early on. The third big incentive, and this is the big one, is it decreases or eliminates your capital gains on the second investment you make. If you hold that second investment in the opportunity zone for 10 years, you can eliminate the capital gains tax. And if we assume a capital gains tax rate of 23%, that is what really gets investors excited. It's the investment in that second investment is eliminated if you hold that investment for a full 10 years. It doesn't mean you have to keep the money in the same investment. You can move your money around. You can choose another opportunity zone investment. You can put your money into a group qualified opportunity zone fund and let them invest it for you. But the idea is that you have to maintain that money in opportunity zones over the 10 years. A few other things I would say, though, is the deferral of the capital gains on that first investment. By the current law, you have to pay the capital gains by the end of 2026. So whatever deferral there was on that first capital gains investment tax bill, you get to defer that until 2026. And that's kind of like a free, interest-free loan from Uncle Sam between now and 2026, where you can take the money that you would have otherwise paid in capital gains and perhaps put it to use between now and the end of 2026. I mentioned that Connecticut is one of the few states that has doubled down on opportunity zones with additional incentives. The tax credit incentives that are tied to this is that if you're working to rehabilitate a historic property in an opportunity zone, and you're eligible for the historic rehabilitation tax credit in Connecticut, that goes from 25% up to a 30% tax credit. And the other wonderful thing about doing things in opportunity zones is lots of DECD grant making applications include opportunity zone location as an extra benefit or a extra point on your application scoring matrix. So they look at it as those are already areas that have been designated as economically distressed by the numbers and evaluations that were done. Those locations were targeted by the government, by the state of Connecticut, as areas that the state and the local economic development folks want to see developed and turned into economically viable properties. So there's a great desire to see those areas developed. Another thing I might say about zones, because we're talking about hub zones and opportunity zones and all these location-based incentives, Connecticut has a short list of zones that are targeted for extra investment again. There are airport zones to drive commercial investment around airports. There are things called enterprise zones. Again, enterprise zones and opportunity zones tend to line up nicely, but there are differences. And, for someone who's in whatever your location is for your business, it's good to know what zones it's in. Sometimes that can lead to various tax incentives, especially if you see growth potential in your company or you're thinking about relocating into those areas. It's good to have an understanding of what the zones are for your location, because it just becomes another way to speak of your location with economic development people, to really resonate the idea that you're putting this investment into those preferred zones. That is my basic overview for opportunity zones. I look forward to having some questions. I think I can, I will just say this is the map of opportunity zones in Connecticut, the 27 towns that have them. And I do want to point you to our websites. We have ConnecticutOpportunityZones.com and CTOZmap.com. Lots of information there. You can plug in specific addresses and find out if you're in the zones. So thank you again, and I will turn it over to our next speaker. If we're ready.
Okay, let's see. Yep, I'm going to share my screen. Thank you.
Meg, we can't see you.
Yep, I'll be right there. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, well, that's a good thing. 1 minute. And there we go.
Go to slideshow mode. That would be great.
Yep. There you go. Thank you. And thank you, Tanisha and Paige. Thank you so much. What a wealth of information. For those of you on the line, the priority of the presentation was really to give you that information about the hub zones and the opportunity zones. I'm going to kind of round it out and talk to you a little bit about how we're connected, right? I'm the program manager, was mentioned earlier, for the supplier diversity programs here in the state of Connecticut. Supplier diversity is just that. What is the state of Connecticut trying to do? Well, we're looking to diversify the vendors and the suppliers that we do business with, working with organizations such as DECD, SCORE, SBA. We're really trying to reach the vast number of companies that are located here in Connecticut, right? I travel around to try to introduce companies to the certification for the state of Connecticut, in order for those companies to then have opportunities on state procurement processes. So you'll see that. We do travel around. If any of you are on the call and you want us to come out to your community, your chambers, anything, please, my information will be at the end of the slide. I wanted to talk to you a little bit about how to do business with the state of Connecticut. Tanisha, originally, when she started her presentation, she talked a little bit about the federal certifications. I want to tell you that we're on the phone call and we're on the webinar today because we're connected. People in many businesses don't realize that the state of Connecticut is connected with the federal side, because one of the things we're trying to do as I travel around the state of Connecticut is to talk to companies about how to get certified in the state of Connecticut's certification process. But one of the things we're also doing is driving our small businesses located in Connecticut to the federal registration first. Again, opening up those doors for hub zone opportunities, and many of the opportunities that are there at the federal side, and then also opening up opportunities at the state side. So those of you on the call, the very first thing you should do if you're looking to do business with the state of Connecticut is come to our CT portal, right? It's called CT Source. It's our portal. It's everything you need to know about state procurement. You as a vendor can then look to register. There's many guides here to help you with that registration. If you're looking to do business with the state of Connecticut, this is your first stop. You come here and you register, because this is our portal. You will now be, will have access to anything that's going out to bid. You as a small business, you want to know that, right? You want to know, what is the state of Connecticut going out to procure for? We put everything out on our CT Source portal. It's as simple as registering. You will receive an email every day about the number of opportunities that the state of Connecticut has out there. Not only the state of Connecticut, but the 169 municipalities also post on this board. So the very first thing is to register. Secondly, what you can do is look to see what we have out there currently. It's called our bid board. Those of you, on the call, you know, we go out to bid for everything. This is really our board. If you're looking to see what is the state of Connecticut procuring for, you can come out and look at this bid board. Again, there's user guides and plenty of references to walk you through that process. The third thing I would just direct you to is our contract board. Everything we do is open and transparent. The state of Connecticut is open 24 hours a day through our contracting board. You can look to see what we have current contracts for. If you're on the call and you're a landscaper, you can look to see what contracts we currently have for contracting in landscaping. So you can then be aggressive in looking to see when those contracts are going to expire. Again, first stop, Connecticut CT Source, and you're going to register here. A vast number of information is here for you, the Connecticut small business. Secondly, again, we talk about registrations. The second registration that I would encourage all of you to do is register here on our BizNet portal. The BizNet portal is a separate portal where we house all of our small business certification applications, as well as our construction pre-qualification applications. Again, it's a registration. We walk you through this. There's some help guides on here. It's a secure site. Once you register in our BizNet portal, you will have access to the application for a small minority-owned business, and you will have access to the contractor pre-qualification application, 2 different applications. Again, encourage you to check those out, and we're going to work with you on those. Again, state of Connecticut DAS is really driving everything to our website. All of our applications are web-based. All of them are secure. because I mentioned earlier, the CT Source portal is secure. You're going to register on that. We also have the BizNet registration, which is secure site. Anything you do on that site is secure, because we're going to ask you to provide us some information in both of those applications, should you choose to think about getting certified as a small business, or in the contractor pre-qualification program for those of you that are construction companies. Anything that you put in those websites and in our application, it is a secure site. So, we just want to mention that. And it is online, it is web-based. Again, kind of getting to the fact that, you can do this at any time. We're open because it's on a web-based application, right? Again, let me just kind of talk a little bit about those of you that are on the line that are Connecticut-based small businesses. I spoke a little bit about how the state of Connecticut and the federal government is connected. Well, how are we connected? Well, we're connected because if you are thinking about getting certified as a Connecticut-based small business, which I encourage you to do so, you have to meet a couple qualifications. The very first thing is you have to be Connecticut-based. It is an economic development program. As Paige mentioned a lot about promoting the economics of our Connecticut-based small businesses. That's what this program does. It's solely for Connecticut-based businesses. Again, your principal place of business has to be here in Connecticut. Second, you have to be registered in the federal system. As Tanisha mentioned, for the hub zone, you have to be registered in their SAM program, or their federal registration. Similarly, for the state of Connecticut, you have to be Connecticut-based and you have to be registered in the federal system. So again, we're opening up those doors for all those opportunities at the federal, but we're also telling you to do that because the federal government will register you in a certain commodity code that's equivalent to register you as a small business, right? The federal government has an entire unit that looks at that data. And if you're a graphic designer, or you're a landscaper, or you're a manufacturer, you're going to be registered in a certain code based on your revenue, or based on the number of employees. So it's not a one standard for every industry, right? And so this is important because when the federal government defines you in a certain NAICS code or as a certain type of small business, it carries through to the federal side and the state side. So again, that's the connectivity between the state of Connecticut and the federal government. Very important for you as a small business to note. We have resources that will help you with this application process. Tanisha mentioned some on her slides. We utilize the same resources. Again, if you're interested in getting certified in the state's program as a small business, there's resources for you. We're not just going to say go do it. We would provide you with those resources to get you through some of the application process. I know many of you know that there's a lot of different certifications. High level, I just wanted to say, listen, if you're a Connecticut-based business and you're a small business and you're owned 51% by a person of a protected class, and the state of Connecticut recognizes different protected classes in our program. We're going to come out, we're going to do an on-site visit. We're going to make sure that the majority owners are active in the daily operations of that business. This program is not for absentee owners. It is for companies that are Connecticut-based, that are registered with the federal system, and have owners that are active, have the technical expertise to do whatever product or service that the company is going to be doing. So there's some checks and balances there. I noticed we had a lot of companies on the line. I wanted to high level just kind of give you some thoughts about the eligibility requirements, because as you go back to your offices and you think about that, and you realize that you are eligible, you're going to reach out to us and we're going to get you through this process, right? We're going to open up some avenues for you on the federal side and the state side. A lot of different companies, we see all different types of companies. It doesn't matter if you're a sole proprietor or corporation, limited liability, we're going to work you through that application process and get the documentation that's needed. So at the end of the day, you're going to get a certificate that says you, a Connecticut-based business, are registered in your home state, right? Why is that important? It's important because it opens up opportunities. There's a lot of opportunities out on our CT source portal. On the very first slide that I showed you, there's hundreds of opportunities that are posted there, and many of those have opportunities designated or set aside for companies that hold the state of Connecticut certification. So that's why we're encouraging you to do that. We have a lot of networking opportunities throughout the year. Again, as you get certified, you're going to be notified of all those networking opportunities. The point of your certification is to open up opportunities for you as a Connecticut business. So that's what we do. Secondly, or thirdly, I should say, is you're going to get certified. You're going to go out on a directory of small businesses. This is important because, as we all know, it's one thing to get certified. It's another thing for people to know that you're certified and be able to find you. This is what we call kind of like our yellow pages. So it's updated 3 or 4 times a day. So it's very dynamic. It's very fluid. If you get certified through our program, you're going to go out on this directory. And it's important because not only does the state of Connecticut and every state agency utilize this, all the 169 municipalities use this directory of small businesses, as well as a number of the private industries that are located here in Connecticut that want to diversify their business utilizing local Connecticut businesses, right? So you go out on the directory and it's marketing for you, a small business owner. People are be able to find you. People can look to see what it is that you do and what services that you provide. Again, kind of pushing that, not just getting certified, but putting that opportunities in your information out to the general public so they can find you and know that you're located in Connecticut. There's no cost to our program, please. There's no cost. It's a 2-year certification. So know that. We do remind you because we know this isn't the only certification that you have. So you're going to get some reminders. But that's kind of 10,000 feet. A little bit about certification, kind of, let you a little bit know about some of the eligibility requirements. If any of that is of interest to you, I would encourage you. And again, you're going to get this information. My information is here. We want to do business with you as Connecticut-based businesses. We want to get you certified in the federal side. We want to get you certified in the state side. And then most importantly, get you registered in our CT source portal so that you now can see what the state of Connecticut is going out to procure for and put some of your bids in there so that we can get you on a state contract, which is our ultimate goal, is to do business with you. I think I'll wind it up there because I know we had a lot of information. I thank SCORE and Diane for the opportunity to share some of this information with the businesses on the call.
Great. Thanks, Meg. Like you say, a lot of information there. We have had a number of questions come in during the session, and Tanisha has kindly responded to some of those, but we'll now use the remaining time that we have to take any further questions that you have. Just as a reminder, if you'd like to ask a question, please use the Q&A feature. It's usually at the bottom of your screen, and we will, as I say, take as many as we can. There are also a couple of questions in the chat. Tanisha, I'll maybe direct this one to you. It came in earlier, and it says, how soon after developing at least 35% of your workforce from a hub zone will you qualify?
Thanks, Bob. I responded in the Q&A as well, but for anyone else that may have that question, there's no time constraints on that. As long as you have the employment records all set. So it can't be, I'm thinking of employing this person. You have to provide like payroll documents and things like that showing that they're an employee.
And there's also a late one that came in. I'll just turn it open to the panel. Do owners and employees need to be U.S. citizens to qualify?
So for the federal program, the owner needs to be a U.S. citizen. Well, the 51% of ownership need to be US citizens.
Right, and because you have to be certified in the federal program first, the answer would be yes for the state.
Okay, just scanning. I think that covers the ones in the chat. It may be, there are no open questions right now, but Tanisha, it might be valuable just in the Q&A here to go over maybe some of the key ones that you responded to in writing, for fear that we didn't have enough time. So I know.
Okay. So
Just so
someone
people-
asked about using like a placement service for finding talent that reside in a hub zone. So my response to that is, I know some temp agencies, they're not really your employees, right? Like you kind of pay the temp agency and then they pay the employee. So if you're using a placement agency, one, they're fee-based, so the SBA is never going to make that a requirement or a suggestion, but it is your prerogative if that's what you want to do. Just make sure that in the terms of your relationship with that placement agency, that the employees actually work for you and not the placement agency. But I know there are some, like if you were to do a search that specialize in finding talent who reside in hub zones so that folks can meet that threshold. And then for assistance with, hiring folks, right? So someone had said that, they were concerned about the paperwork. I always refer to our resource partner network. They can be very useful in helping to demystify a lot of that information for you all for free. So like SCORE, our SCORE chapters, again, they're located throughout the state. And then we also have our other resource partners, such as small business development centers and women's business centers, who can assist as well.
Okay, maybe I'll just, there's one that's just, there's one that's just come in from Elena. I have a business that is a Medicaid provider for the home care services. Can I still participate in your program? Not specific exactly to which program, but maybe each of you may want to give a comment on that.
So on the federal side, what I always recommend that people do, sam.gov is where you need to register to do business with the federal government. But also sam.gov is where contracting opportunities are posted, and it is a free system. It's an open system. So you should know your primary NAICS code. If you don't, work with Apex, work with myself at SBA or other resource partners to find out your primary NAICS code. Plug that in and see if the government buys what you're selling, whether it's a service, a product, or whatever. But there's no restrictions on if you worked with this entity, you can't work with the SBA or qualify for any of our set-asides.
Yeah.
Meg or Paige, and
The only thing I would say is similar to Tanisha's, we always tell everybody to get registered as a Connecticut small business if you qualify, because the state of Connecticut procures for everything. So whether you're a first tier on a contract or a subcontractor on a contract, and or as I showed you, briefly, the directory of small businesses, there's opportunities out there that I don't even know of that somebody may want to use your services. So I would say yes.
Yeah. I mean, I always use those examples, like, professional services being the number one. I look for really weird things sometimes in SAM. So there are people that actually buy, the Coast Guard, and then they buy like ringing bells, like brass bells that ring. I found someone that was looking for advertising. So they were looking for an actual multimedia advertising company, probably to make the commercials for like Be All You Can Be and stuff like that. But I mean, the federal government, just like Meg said with the state, it's an exhaustive list of the things that we procure.
well, we're almost at the top of the hour, so that'll be all the questions that we have time for today. Just a reminder to everyone, we did get some inquiries throughout. The session has been recorded, and the recording will be available on our website, fairfieldcounty.score.org, within the next day or so under on-demand webinars. And our next live SCORE webinar is tomorrow, June 27th at noon. And the topic is Superpower of Creativity for Marketing Success with John Fallis presenting. And again, more specifics on our website. And again, if you'd like to take advantage of the free individual counseling, you can use that link that we showed earlier on the screen, or you can just go to our website and click on the Request a Mentor button. If I could ask all of the attendees to please fill out your evaluations that are being set after this, very helpful to us. And on behalf of SCORE and the Southern Connecticut Black Chamber of Commerce, I'd like to thank everyone for attending today's live webinar. And in closing, special big thank you to Tanisha, Paige, and Meg for presenting today. So enjoy the rest of your day, everyone. Thanks very much.
Thank you so,
Meg, thanks,
so
Paige.
very
Thanks.
much. I really appreciate the panel and thank everybody that has participated. You guys have a wonderful week.
You too.
Thanks,
Thank you.
you too.
Thank
Thank
you.
Bye.
Thanks, Diana.
Bye-bye now. Thanks, Bob.